I mean, say no more. Big Samu Taumanupepe, Colorado's 375-pound defensive tackle. Is he the answer for Georgia Tech? I mean, buckle up your seatbelts, bruh. Say no more. Because today we have to go directly to the place where Colorado's 2026 season can be won or lost. And that's the trenches, bruh. Forget the flashy stuff for a minute, fam. Forget the receivers. Forget the quarterbacks. Forget the running backs. Listen. Those battles are cool, but when Colorado walks into Atlanta on September 3rd to face Georgia Tech, Brent Key is going to look across the field to Coach Prime's brand new defensive front and ask one very simple question. Are y'all really different from 2025? Or was all that transfer portal hype just talk? Say no more. Because Georgia Tech already knows what happened last year, bruh. If we keeping it a bean, 320 rushing yards in Boulder. 320. Georgia Tech came into Boulder, ran for 320 yards, and outgained Colorado 463 to 305 and walked out with a 27-20 victory. Coach Prime's own assessment after the game was essentially this. You cannot win football games allowing somebody to run the ball like that. Anything over 200 and 200, it's a wrap. And this year, Colorado spent big in the portal to make sure that does not happen again, especially in the A. So now we want to know, who can we trust? Who can line up inside, absorb that double team? Pause. That was crazy. Hold the point of attack against Georgia and tell Georgia Tech, not this year. And this is one of the biggest answers, literally might be number 88, Big Oops, Samu Tamape, 6'3", 375 pounds coming over from Baylor. And if this young man becomes the player Colorado needs him to be, if he can live up to his potential, if he can exceed his potential, this entire Chris Marve defense changes, bruh. Listen, we got to roll these well-off media highlights. The defense was going crazy. Take a look at these highlights from well-off media and look at the defensive line. Forget the football for a second. Let me know what you think about how we're going to fare. Who can we trust? Watch this war happening up front. Watch watch Dylan Manuel, watch Samu Tamape, and watch the defensive interior linemen taking on these offensive linemen. Let's roll the tape. Say no more. Let's get straight to it. Here we go. We got to roll the tape. Now, what you're seeing here, Big Oos gets the double team. He's not going nowhere. Now, what you see there, that creates a lane for the linebacker, Gideon ESPN, Leona Leafow, Tyler Martinez to do their job. When you have somebody who commands a double team, who's not going nowhere, who's plugging that line, this is exactly what you need. And this is exactly what you need from your defensive interior front. Right here, you see the offense get a little kick out right there. I ain't even going to hold you. Turning wasn't the best rep, but now, as we go to number 99, Dylan Manuel, as he turns the corner, listen, what are you on? Now we're figuring out during Colorado Football Fall Camp 2026, who can we trust? Who comes over and is going to make the play? And that's what's going to be the difference in 2026, but especially September 3rd when we walk into Atlanta to take on the Yellow Jackets for the season opener. I mean, say no more, bruh. Yesterday was a battle of the trenches, and Colorado Football Fall Camp will continue to figure out which defensive lineman can we trust in this new 4-2-5 system. Now, stay with me now. This is what we're going to do here. Listen, it's very important. Colorado is trying to figure out during Fall Camp 2026, who can we trust against Georgia Tech when they're deciding to come downhill? Who can take on the double team? Who can anchor? Who gets displaced, right? Who controls his gap? Who keeps the linebackers clean? You heard that, the linebackers clean, because everybody wants to make the tackle. But sometimes the most important defensive player on the entire play could be the 375-pound monster who occupies two offensive linemen and never gets his name called. That's football, baby, and that's what this new 4-2-5 defense is looking for. Say no more. Why I specifically tuned in on Big Oos today? Big Oos Taumanupepe is one of those most intriguing pieces because when you look at his college stat sheet, you're not going to see some ridiculous sack numbers, bro. You're not going to see 15 tackles for loss, right? That's not Big Oos's history. At Baylor in 2025, Samu played 6 games and only logged 27 defensive snaps, with 19 of those coming against the run. He recorded 2 tackles, but listen, to how Baylor described his job. This is very important, right? Their defensive line coach said they brought in this massive defensive tackle to clog the middle, command double teams, and stop the run. That is exactly the profile Colorado was missing. At Texas A&M before Baylor, he had 6 tackles in limited 2024 action, including 4 against McNixie and 2 against New Mexico State. So the Colorado opportunity represents himself different this time. A chance for Taumanupepe to turn rare physical size into a legitimate role in this Chris Marve 4-2-5 defense. And that is why I want to be fair with this evaluation. Samu isn't a finished product yet, bro. Big Oos got some time. Colorado is not getting Aaron Donald's resume. They're getting a 375 developmental interior player with a physical trait you cannot manufacture. Mass. Pause. That was crazy. But you cannot teach 375 pounds. You cannot scheme somebody's body into being that difficult to move, bro. But what Samu has to prove is that the weight becomes an asset for us, right? Not merely a measurement on this roster. Can he play with leverage? Can he get his hands inside? Can he drop his hips? Can he prevent the center and guard from moving him 2 yards off the football? And most importantly, can he make 2 blockers account for him? Because if he can, now Chris Marve's linebackers get to play football, baby. Gideon ESPN gets to roam. Leona Leafow gets to roam. Tyler Martinez gets to do his dance. And family, that is where I want to clean up some football terminology because it matters to me in this evaluation of our trenches, bro. A 3 technique genuinely aligns on the outside shoulder of the guard and attacks that B-gap, fam. A 4 technique is head up over the offensive tackle. A 4 shades inside the tackle. A 5 technique aligns outside the tackle. And how could you move Samu around? Absolutely, depending on the front and the call. But at 370 pounds and based on the role Baylor already gave him, his natural value screams interior anchor to me, bruh. 0 tech, 1 tech, shade the center, bruh. Maybe heavy 2-eye. And occasionally reduce or bump him depending on what Chris Marve is trying to accomplish in this 4-2-5, right? I don't need Samu Taumanupepe chasing tackles around the C-gap all afternoon, bro. I ain't even going to hold you. I need him making the A-gap feel like somebody put a refrigerator in the doorway. You are not coming through here, bro. Say no more. And this is important because Chris Marve himself hasn't explained that he's not simply installing something because that's what he always run. He said Colorado built this defense around what its personnel can actually execute, right? His stated identity has been fast, relentless, and physical. So call it 4-2-5, call it a nickel, call it a 4-man front, spin it this way, right? Whatever Marve puts on the grass, the principle has to remain the same, fam. Somebody has to cancel the interior gaps. And against Georgia Tech, with Justice Haynes lining up back there, boy, we're going to need Samu, Santana Hopper, Dylan Moore, the whole crew. And this is where the combination is going to get interesting because Samu doesn't have to become the entire defensive line by himself, bro. You put that massive body inside, pause. I ain't going to hold you. And then you put Santana Hopper next to him, and now we cooking, bro. And let me correct something from earlier, bro. Santana Hopper played 2025 at Tulane after previously playing at Appalachian State. At Tulane last season, 31 tackles, 10.5 tackles for loss, 4.5 sacks, bro. And Colorado's own defensive line preview notes that Hopper piled up 39 quarterback pressures and 12 quarterback hits, according to PFF data cited by the school. That is a completely different body type. So now we're talking about Hopper, who is listed at 6'2", 265 pounds. Samu is 375. So imagine what you can create there, the dynamic between those two. Samu occupies the center and the guard. Hopper gets isolated. Now Hopper can penetrate. Now Hopper can attack the B gap. I ain't even going to hold you. Now somebody literally has to decide, do we double team this 375-pound big oos, or do we slide the protection toward the guy who has proven he can get into the backfield? That is a good issue to have for this new Colorado defense in 2026. That is the complementary defensive line front that we're looking for. Not the best 11, but the 11 best, right? Dylan Manuel. Don't forget about number 99. Dylan Manuel, another one of these guys I'm watching closely as Colorado football camp 2026 goes. Manuel played all 12 regular season games at Appalachian State last season and made 7 starts, right? 37 tackles, 7 tackles for loss, and 3 sacks. 5 quarterback hurries and an interception. That's right, bro. He had an interception. Before Appalachian State, he was an all-freshman All-American selection at Charleston Southern after producing 4.5 tackles for loss, 2 sacks as a true freshman. And Manuel is listed at about 6'1", 300 pounds. Now you've got something. Samu gives you mass. Pause. Hopper gives you proven disruption. Manuel gives you another 300-pound interior body with actual production, bruh. And if Edger Christensen ultimately becomes available, now you're talking about another player who had 42 tackles, 11 tackles for loss, and 6 sacks at New Mexico State in 2025. But because Edger Christensen's eligibility remains unsettled publicly, Colorado cannot sit around assuming he's going to solve everything. That's exactly why Samu's development matters so much. There is no time to waste, bruh. I mean, Georgia Tech is around the corner. Brent Key said he ready to line up and test our new defensive lineman. And here's something casual football fans something might miss. When you play a 4-man front with 2 linebackers behind it, right? Say no more. Listen closely. Those linebackers cannot constantly scrape and fill if your defensive tackles are getting blown backwards. You understand? You can have elite linebackers. You can have great instincts. You can have speed. But if a 350-pound guard is climbing untouched to you as a linebacker, you already lost the rep, fam. The defensive line's job isn't always to make the tackle, right? Sometimes the job is to occupy. Say no more. Anchor, control, force the running back to declare which gap he's going to hit, and keep those second-level defenders clean, fam. And that, I ain't even going to hold you. Super important. That is why Samu Taumanupepe can potentially make everybody around him better. Big Oos, we need you this season, fam. We need you. If Samu takes 2, pause. I ain't going to hold you. That was crazy. A linebacker can come clean. If Samu squeezes the gap, the running back has no bounce. Whoa, it's getting wicked. If Samu gets penetration, the back has to cut back before he's ready. And now the speed of this Chris Marve defense can run to the football. Exactly what Chris Marve wants. Violent, physical, aggressive, everybody swarming to the football. Big man doing the dirty work so the fast man can play fast. If you appreciate breakdowns like this, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe and join the channel memberships. And I appreciate you guys tapping in. Back to the video. Now, because let's tell the truth about 2025. Colorado didn't have just a couple rough games against the run. For the season, opponents averaged 222 rushing yards per game, 5.2 yards per attempt, scoring 25 rushing touchdowns. That is the number that should make everybody inside this defensive line room uncomfortable. That cannot have a repeat. 222 rushing yards a game is crazy, bro. 5.2 yards per carry every time somebody got the rock. I mean, say no more. You cannot consistently win Big 12 football in that way. And Coach Prime let it be known in the post-game interviews. And what is Georgia Tech's loss especially painful? That showed Colorado the problem in week 1. 320 rushing yards. Haynes King himself ran for 150 yards and 3 touchdowns, including the 45-yard game winner. It was the Haynes King show. So, you know Brent Key remembers that. They went out in the portal. They got better. They upgraded as well. Colorado remembers it. Coach Prime remembers it. And whether Georgia Tech has different players in 2026 or not, the test remains the same, fam. Can Colorado hold up physically? That's been the talk, and it will continue to be the talk because of Brent Key, and that's where I'm starting. Not because I know what they're going to do against Georgia Tech. I don't. But based on Brent Key's offensive line's background, Georgia Tech's run game identity, and what happened in Boulder last season, I would absolutely expect Tech to find out whether Colorado's rebuilt front can withstand physical football. That's an interference from the matchup history and Brent Key's background, not a claim about Georgia Tech's private game plan, bruh. I'm just saying, I ain't even going to hold you. Georgia Tech is lining up. They say he made it be known. The identity of your football team is when everybody knows what's going to happen and you still do it. He sent an APB out to Colorado way earlier this season. And not just Colorado, the entire ACC. We're going to run the ball. Let's see if you can stop us. And that's what he believes the identity of a team is. So what's Colorado's defensive identity going to be on the front this season when we know what Brent Key and the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets plan on doing September 3rd in Atlanta, in Georgia? They're going to line up and they're going to test these PFF grades, the money that was spent, and they want to know. The talk is over. Fall camp is over for both of us. Now it's time to line up, put the pads on, and see who's man-to-man and who's going to let their kahunas scrape across the field in Georgia. I ain't even going to hold you. I can't wait till the September 3rd Open. I can't wait to see how this defensive line comes out and surprises and shocks the entire world when Colorado comes out and puts belt on Georgia Tech and runs for over 200 yards in this new Brennan Marion's go-go offense, and Colorado has his first 1,000-yard rusher in I don't know how long. But we're definitely getting multiple 500-yard rushers this season. But to go back to the defensive line, when we see how Samu Taumanupepe, Dylan Manuel, Tyler Moore, Cedric Smith, and this new defensive line plugs the holes, and allows the linebackers, Gideon ESPN, Leona Leafow, and my boy Tyler Martinez to do their dance. Nathan Mitchell's coming downfield, Randon Fontenette's coming downfield, and whoever our nickel is, whether that's Jaja Boyd, whether that's Justin England, whether that's Makari Vickers, whoever ends up being that nickel, or if we decide to run a 4-3, whatever's cool with me. I'm ready to put my helmet and shoulder pads on and go ball out for Colorado. But if you like breakdowns like this, then if you like reaction videos, if you enjoy this college football breakdowns, then do me a favor, hit the subscribe button, become a member of the channel, hit the like button, hype the video up, and tell a friend that we doing it live over here at Say No More. We're going to keep dropping this fire content all 2026. Appreciate you guys, and I'll catch y'all on the next one. Say no more. I ain't even going to hold you. See you in a minute, bro. Say no more. I'll see y'all in a minute.